it took less than 24 hours for the impact of President Donald Trump and Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's meticulously planned military hit on Iran and its murderous leadership for many in Australia to start asking an urgent question. Can we, Australia, even remotely think that we can defend ourselves? Is Australia militarily prepared to defend ourselves from a foreign government determined to do us harm in an attack, say, aimed to secure our resources for that foreign government? Now, the clear answer to that question is an overwhelming no. I mean, again, it was made clear today as oil prices spiked and the expected still rise on petrol and diesel retail prices, probably set to hit today or tomorrow, what Australia as a nation only has around a month's supply of fuel that keeps the nation turning. Now, I'll play some comments on this from Chris Bowen in Question Time today in a moment. He says we've got 36 days. So I say 4 weeks, he says it's 5. Big deal. But there is a twist here. We've got 1 month, meaning that we rely completely on imported crude plus imported refined fuel, mainly from Singapore, that could be turned off like a tap if shipping lanes to Australia were compromised. Now, One Nation MP and former Deputy Prime Minister Barnaby Joyce has been on about this for a very long time, and he was quick to point out this morning, criticising the current government for not being more vocal today and what Australia should be doing in a similar situation.
If China uses this time to say, well, America's tied up in the Middle East, we'll take on Taiwan, and all of a sudden America says to us, well, you're in, have we got a formidable defence force? Have we built that up? There's a bit of a shame about that, isn't it? We pray that this crisis, this conflict comes to an end. We hear that President Trump's out there, he's going to have discussions. I want that to conclude. But this isn't a major trade route for an essential quantity for Australia.
Barnaby followed up with a question to Chris Bowen in Question Time. Now, here's Bowen's explanation that some of this 36 days of fuel we have is actually on ships somewhere.
The answer to the question is 34 days in relation to diesel, 32 days in relation to jet fuel and 36 days in relation to petrol. Those figures only include fuel in Australia or on ships in our economic zone. It is true, it is not all on land in Australia.
Certainly doesn't fill me with confidence. I mean, Barnaby says we are simply sitting around with our fingers crossed, hoping our alliance with the United States would see the cavalry headed this way to protect us. And in the current global climate, there's no guarantee of that, with reports out of the US today saying polls in that country showing support for this attack on Iran is only at 25% of the population. What would support for a defence of Australia be from the American public? Look, a large number of Americans would struggle to even find us on a map. I'll talk to international affairs expert Michael Shoebridge shortly about that. Prominent defence expert in the News Limited tabloids this morning, Jennifer Parker, said boosting defence capabilities amid global uncertainty was, in her words, quote, insurance against a changed world. She's right, adding that the current timeline of lifting investment in defence from 2.05% to 2.33% by 2033 was way too slow. And more strongly still, Parker said, quote, not backing that up with significantly enhanced military capability is a huge vulnerability and incoherent. Now, opposition defence spokesman James Patterson went to the heart of the issue, warning, quote, in an age of missiles and drones, Australia's major cities and northern military bases are dangerously exposed by a lack of integrated air and missile defences. Look, it's a gloomy assessment, and one Canberra doesn't seem to want to hear. And the current Defence Minister, Richard Marles, who did finally bob up today on Iran, just doesn't fill me with any confidence. And his answer to questions from Peter Stefanovic were pretty lame.
Refining capacity is one issue, but even what we refine in Australia now relies heavily on imported crude oil. So refining is one element of it, but it's actually about having oil reserves and take crude oil from around the world, but that would include from the Middle East, but it's not the only place where we take crude oil from. Right. But I guess what that highlights is that, I mean, this is an important region. It has an impact on the global economy. We'll all be watching that very closely.
Now, does that bloke fill you with confidence? He certainly doesn't fill me with any confidence. Look, our nation's biggest advantage still is we're a big island continent a long way away from anywhere. But in modern warfare, that advantage can no longer be taken for granted. I mean, take you to Canberra in a sec, but not surprisingly, with question time back in session today, the Prime Minister was asked a question by his own side, I should point out, about the reaction to the joint Israeli-US attack on Iran.
Our ability to provide consular assistance in Iran is extremely limited due to the correct decision that we made to expel the Iranian ambassador and close our embassy in Tehran after the evidence of the IRGC's involvement in terrorist attacks on Australian soil.
Just don't get a sense that he really believes much of that. The newly minted opposition leader, Angus Taylor, well, he responded with his view of what the military action was.
I associate myself with the sentiment of the Prime Minister here and what he's just said a moment ago. This is a genocidal, authoritarian and despotic regime. And the IRGC has acted to support terrorist acts throughout the world, including in this country. 2 acts we have seen, at least, in this country. And of course, the listing of the IRGC was something that both sides of the parliament supported. It should have happened earlier, but both sides of the parliament have supported that.